So yeah, something we talked about was there's a lot of object composition here in the start method. For instance, we're creating a new controller, and then we're passing in a new adventure, and then we're passing in what seems to be, I don't think this is a singleton. No, it looks like just a static method that gets adventure one. So yeah, a lot of object composition here. Like maybe there's a better way to inject these. For instance, create your own composite root, some class that is aware of game controller and can actually build these objects itself and hand them into the game controller, inject them into the game controller, as opposed to having all of this logic in here that is building out its own dependencies, which could lead to issues later on if you have to make changes.
So a kind of a fancy way of describing this is to say this is showing how the sausage is made. And at the end of the day, as far as this script is concerned, it needs an adventure controller. That's all it needs.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to know what an adventure controller really is contained, what it has, what's in it, how all that stuff works. You could theoretically have an adventure controller passed into this, or you could have an adventure controller factory. And I know people are going, oh my god, you're already massively over-engineered. Not really. If I had adventure controller factory dot create, that's one line. It doesn't make this any more complicated. In fact, it removes all of this complexity, and this script only cares about one dependency, the thing that gives it an adventure controller. So it may look like you're just moving the problem. You're still doing all of that stuff, and that's technically what you are doing. You're moving the problem. Why? Because that's not this guy's job. You're allowed to move the problem. That's kind of the point. You can then decide later how to make an efficient adventure controller, as long as this guy is able to query for one without writing all of it in here. It was a very small little change, but if you just wrote, get me adventure controller somehow, I don't care, do a thing, then this whole chunk of code can be figured out later. Because ask yourself what the job of this script is, and in this case, it's not to construct an adventure controller.
Oh, we could kind of do what you said earlier and kind of just, at least for now, move it out of the way.
Yeah, even that is kind of good. And this is the other thing too, right? When we're talking about refactoring, a big complaint I see people say is, you're building these massive over-engineered, nested this and this and this. Well, when you're refactoring, you don't refactor to a perfect solution. You refactor to a better solution. So in this case, moving out to a function like this is already removing one step, right? So you don't need to get to the right answer immediately. You can do these small fixes that make things a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
And once you do this, you'll start to actually see, hang on a second, if I'm able to move this out into a different dependency, should it even be here in the first place? The fact that it's got a different name, get adventure controller, ask yourself, would that be a public function on the interface that is this script? And probably not, right? Because it's not something that is the job of this object. So little abstractions like this will help you sort of get to the root of what each script is supposed to do.
Yeah. And even this is not ideal, but yeah, like what you said, and I think this is an important thing that people miss the point on, is that you're trying to move your code towards a better place. It doesn't always have to be perfect. And I get from experience why you get caught up in that, because you figure, well, I'm writing this, I'm in control of this. Why wouldn't I take the time to make this perfect? But then you go down the rabbit hole. You don't really know all the future needs of a particular class or script. So don't worry about getting it perfect. Just worry about making it readable and changeable, flexible.
And that's like what I said earlier, right? It's like I will use singletons in some cases like this, which sound like an anti-pattern, but I'll do it because I've already done the hard work, which I've moved the code out. So if you think about it, like I said, somebody, Unity gods, give me an adventure controller. Like, that's the statement you're making. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what crazy find object of type or get component or instantiate a scriptable object. I don't care. Just do something and get me this object so I can continue doing my job. And so when people are worried about you getting too granular with stuff, it comes back to the same thing we discussed earlier, which is don't do the things you don't need to do. We're doing this to remove the problem out because we shouldn't be thinking about creating this while we're doing the rest of this code. We're not going to go down and make a 6-layered factory and do all the stuff, because that's not what we need to do right now. We need to make this start function say what it's doing. And right now, it's saying a lot of information. It's telling me how an adventure controller is built and what's in it and all the different parts of it. And I don't need to know that information.